Welcome to an episode of the Myrrh-Bearing Millennial Podcast. I'm your host, Jill, and as a full-time homemaker, homesteader, and homeschooling stay-at-home mom, I'm on a mission to help moms find joy and fulfillment in their marriage, motherhood, and business, all while growing deeper in their Christian faith. Each week, we'll discuss relevant topics that I pray will help you strengthen your marriage, gain confidence as a mom, grow a profit to support your family from home, and bring you closer to Christ. As someone who endured childhood trauma, abusive relationships, and has learned the hard way that feminism has been harming women and weakening the family unit more than it's been doing good, I'm here to share with you what's possible, to show you the power that God intended for women, and to help you harness the beauty, grace, and entrepreneurial mind that is the Proverbs 31 woman we all strive to be. So let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome to today's podcast episode. I'm diving into the 5 things that I've learned so far in our first official year of homeschooling, and it's been a whirlwind of a first year. So Gemma is only 5. She turns 6 on October 1st, and in the state of Pennsylvania, we actually don't have to register for homeschooling with the state until you're 6 before sometime in September. So she actually has like a whole other year of school that we can do without her even being registered with the state. So though it's not technically like our official year with the state homeschooling, it's the first official year we've taken homeschooling seriously. We're going through preschool curriculum this year. And I want to talk about all the things, about the 5 things that I've learned so far, and hopefully this helps you if you're wondering if you want to homeschool, or if you're looking for some tips on how to homeschool a younger age like this. I also have 3 kids, so I am also managing a 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old, and a 9-month-old while I'm homeschooling her. I'm going to dive into all that in this episode. So let's jump in. Okay, so we first decided to homeschool for a few reasons. Before we even had kids, we knew we wanted to do something other than public school. Both my husband and I went to public school. It just started getting worse and worse by the time we were both out, and we both went to 2 different schools too. So like, there's just between the bullying and then the last few years, like all the bomb threats, the mass shooting threats, the woke ideologies that are being pushed upon kids, and all the different things that are happening, I just don't trust the public school system. Have it for a long time, didn't super love it whenever I was in it. It's not what I want for our kids, not what my husband wants. When we got married, we visited some friends of my dad's in Houston, Texas, and they had told us that they put their kids through a classical education school, and that was our first real introduction into a different style of learning. And so we learned about the classical style of education, which we love. If you don't know much about the classical style, it is broken into 3 components. You have grammar, logic, and rhetoric. So grammar is the young ages. Specifically, our homeschool curriculum, we do classical conversations. So it's broken between ages 4 to 11 is the grammar portion. And this is all memorization, literally memorizing everything. Everything has songs and hand motions, and it's really repetitive, honestly. But it goes through 3 cycles. So this first cycle is all about ancient civilizations and the ancient world and all of that. And so that's what we're focusing on in this year's CC. And so with classical education, those first early years are all memorization. Then it moves into like the middle school age, which is focused on logic. So all of the memory work that you've done the last few years, you now add in the logic component. And so with logic, you end up taking all of the verbs and the nouns and the adjectives that you learned through grammar that you memorized, and you learn how to complete a full sentence, how to write a paragraph, how to completely construct and write an essay. And you learn to do that with the logic components. You start doing math equations, science experiments where you understand the hypotheses and everything else. So like all of the grammar, everything you've memorized, you're now going to incorporate logic into it. Then when you get to the high school ages, 8th through 12th grade, is whenever you bring in rhetoric. And rhetoric is really just the kids' own spin, their own way of thinking and creative ways around what it is that they're learning. So they've learned what all of the words mean at the base level, right? All the grammar. They've learned how to use them with logic. Now they get to argue their points and explain it with their own creative sides. So they can write an entire paragraph on their thoughts of the Civil War. They can debate laws based off of their own beliefs and their own values, or knowing the research of other points and stuff that they might not agree with, but they have to argue it. So it's broken up into those three core components: the grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And when my husband and I were learning about it, it just made sense. We really loved that style of learning, and we knew we wanted our children to have a classical style education. We just weren't sure what that was going to look like, because private school is very expensive, and we also want to have multiple kids, which gets very expensive. So fast forward to 2020, I'd always thought about maybe homeschooling. I wasn't sure if it was something I wanted to do. I remember thinking back into my high school years, and homeschooling was kind of the weird thing. So I wasn't fully sure yet what I wanted to do. 2020, so Gemma was born October of 2019. 2020, the world shuts down, and we see everyone being homeschooled. Now, it was different for a lot of families, right? If the kids were coming home from public school, they were probably just doing public school at home with virtual online learning and stuff. But what we did see was this huge shift towards homeschooling. Parents were like, wait, what are my kids learning in school? Or they really loved having their kids home, or a mixture of both, and decided to fully embrace homeschooling. And so we've seen this massive waves of millions of families turn to homeschooling, and now we have more co-ops and support groups and education systems and so forth. And there's so many more resources that you can utilize in homeschooling. And I started hanging out with more of those families who were homeschooling, and I started falling in love with the idea of homeschooling. And I learned that I could teach a classical education to my daughter through homeschooling. So that's what got us into homeschooling and why we homeschool, which has now brought us to now. So we kind of played around last year a little bit whenever Gemma was 4. Barely. We didn't stick to any schedule or anything like that. We weren't using a specific curriculum. We were just kind of playing around the first year. She's 5. She turned 5 October 1st. And this is her first official year we're doing preschool. But and I'm going to do a deep dive YouTube video showing all of our curriculums and my opinions on certain curriculums we've tried that we don't like, which ones we like, why we like them, and so forth. So stay tuned. Make sure you're also subscribed to my YouTube channel, so that way you don't miss that video whenever that comes out. So the curriculums that we do use right now, I'm definitely a curriculum junkie. I like to try them all and see what works best for my kid. Now, she is 5, so take that into consideration. We're not doing hours and hours of homeschooling every single day, which honestly you don't do anyways. The older they get, the average amount of time a high schooler spends on school every day is 4 hours, compared to the 8 to 9 hour day they would spend in public school. That's a whole other tangent. Anyways, so the curriculums we are currently using, our primary is Classical Conversations. This is a Christian classical homeschooling community. It is the classical style of education. We chose to do it, 1, because it's the classical style. 2, it helps introduce us to it. My husband and I never were raised with the classical style of education. We don't know what we're doing. And so this allows us to learn how to do it in a community setting. 3, the accountability really helps with it. So we have a community day with our CC school every Tuesday, and we go and we're accountable to that schedule and to that week and what we're doing in work. And that has helped tremendously with staying on top of our schooling this year, because it's a discipline you have to learn, actually getting up and doing school every single day. And it's Christian. So it is, I honestly can't tell if it's actually non-denominational or if it's Catholic. It has some Catholic, there's themes in it that would make me think that the owners are Catholic, but I've heard that they're non-denominational. I'm honestly not entirely sure. My husband and I are Eastern Orthodox, so we are fine. We've had some Orthodox people reach out and be like, why are you using CC? It's not Orthodox. Everything that CC teaches still happened. All the history and stuff still happened. The Reformation still happened. Our kids will learn about it. It's our job at home to teach our kids why we don't agree with it from the Eastern Orthodox side. So I incorporate the Orthodox teachings into our school, but we really, really love our CC group. So that's our primary, is Classical Conversations. And then this year, Gemma really thrives on bookwork. She loves worksheets and doing bookwork. So we've been using the preschool Good and the Beautiful book. I will not be using Good and the Beautiful moving forward. I have a lot of reasons on this. Again, I'm going to dive into it in that curriculum YouTube video that I'm going to do, so make sure you subscribe. But we will not be using it moving forward. I have enjoyed the preschool book, but we're just done with Good and the Beautiful after this year, which she's actually almost done with that book. She'll be done with the preschool book this week. So we do that. We do the Christian Light books. We're using Kindergarten 1 right now, and then, which is kind of like a prep to kindergarten, pre-K. And then we're going to use the Kindergarten 2 all next year for her full kindergarten curriculum. And so the Kindergarten 1 she's going through, the Christian Light's nice. It's open and go workbook system. It fits her really well. It's Christian. It's actually Christian. And she just really likes it, and they're easy open and go workbooks. So we've been using Christian Light. We'll probably always use Christian Light. We really like it as a supplemental resource. The way I see it, like, because classical style of education is so different, it doesn't align with what the state wants them to learn in specific grades and stuff. So we use CC as our primary because we want our children to learn that style of education. But then I supplement with Christian Light to make sure that they're staying on par with state testing and evaluations and stuff like that. So we do supplement with that. And then I add in Orthodox stuff, and we use Harbor and Sprouts for all of our unit study, like morning basket work. So it's just quick little morning basket things that I just add in for fun. I kind of match what they offer with like the month, so it fits a theme and everything. If you want, I have a discount code to Harbor and Sprouts for their unit studies and all that they have to offer. They're wonderful. If you go to the links in the description and the show notes, you can grab that link and get a percentage off, get a discount on Harbor and Sprouts unit studies and morning baskets supplies. So anyways, so that's what we use. CC's our primary. We're finishing Good and the Beautiful, Christian Light, and then the unit studies from Harbor and Sprout. And of course we go to the library, and I'm trying to turn to more of a Charlotte Mason style learning, especially right now I can't. It is negative 11 degrees outside with like 7 inches of snow. So we're not spending any time outside right now. But once it gets to springtime, really spending more time in nature and doing it now too with baking and cooking and sewing and a bunch of winter activities that we're doing, just teaching more school through life skills and living books. So we've been going to the library more and doing a lot of that. So I'm kind of shifting into a Charlotte Mason style with CC as our primary. That's where we're going. But anyways, that's like a quick breakdown into that. Like I said, here's your third reminder. I will have a deep dive into curriculums soon coming out on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can make sure you catch that, because I'm going to show all the curriculums and everything. You get sneak peeks into them and all the things. Okay, so the 5 things that I have learned so far in this first year of homeschooling are as follows. The first thing is that it actually doesn't take that long to do school every day. I feel like people who are new to homeschooling, myself included, was like, how am I going to get anything done if I'm spending 8 hours a day doing school? You don't. Public school wastes a ton of time. Think of how much time they spend going to the bathroom and these really long lunches and recess and all the things. Like, they spend way too much time than they need to. It's really kind of an over-glorified and very expensive taxpayer daycare, in my opinion. That's a whole other thing. So they spend way too much time. When you homeschool, it doesn't take that long, especially these young ages. Honestly, I think the average for a preschooler is like 20 minutes. We spend about an hour every day just because Gemma really loves it. Like, she keeps moving through curriculum stuff quickly. When she last year, her attention span was not there. We spent maybe 20 minutes a day on school stuff when we did it. This year, her attention span is there and she wants to do it. Like I said, she really loves the workbook stuff especially. So we spend average about an hour, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. It just depends on our day, but about an hour a day on school. And I've seen all the charts and stuff. Like I said, an average time for a high schooler is 4 hours a day on their schoolwork. So you don't actually spend that much time doing school, which is nice. Second is that time flexibility is amazing.
This is one of my favorite parts of homeschooling, is how flexible and filled with grace, honestly, it is for your schedule and for life. You can do school at any time. Yes, we technically start our new year in August actually September, and we will end our official year in April this year. But like, I'm still going to school through the summer. We still do workbook stuff, and we're always learning. Learning never ends. And that's the biggest thing I want my children to understand as we homeschool through their life, is that the learning never ends. Like, you're always learning, and I want them to have a deep love for learning, right? So they're always going to learn, but our official school year is like September to April. And so with that though, there's a lot of grace for when life happens. So if you don't know, in September, my brother was in a car accident that tragically took his life 12 days later. And it shook our world. Everything was fine. Everything was, normal in life. And on Saturday, we went to my brother's baby shower, and it was amazing, and I gave him a hug, and that night he gets on a motorcycle, and at 4 a.m, I get a phone call saying, get to the hospital. And we spent the next week and a half in ICU with him until finally deciding to take him off of life support. And it rocked our world to the core. It shook us, and we were in so much deep grief, still are. It was only 4 months ago. It's still fresh. It feels like forever ago because we've gone through the holidays and everything, but it's still fresh. And in that time, we're helping with a funeral. His girlfriend, actually, while all that happened, her placenta detached, and she was rushed into the hospital and had the baby 7 weeks early. Her and the baby are perfectly fine now, thank God. But we've got a new nephew to help with, and all of that grief surrounding the family trauma with losing my brother. And so much happened. And honestly, we didn't do school for weeks while we were going through this. And then by the time we came back to CC, it was time for winter break because we were done the first week of December. So we really didn't do anything. RJ would help with school when I just wasn't there, because that entire week and a half he was in the hospital, I was at the hospital every day with him. So my husband was home and would do school with the kids and stuff as much as he could. But other than that, we really didn't do school. And then we got really sick. We had COVID, and then we had the flu and some other respiratory thing, and we just got over the stomach flu. So it was like one thing after another with being sick through all of that trauma and that grief. Also, it's like we barely did school for 2 months. And we're just now getting back into the swing of it. But like I said, you can spend as little or as much time on it each day. And Gemma's really been wanting to dive deep into it. So since she's been diving so much deeper into her work, we're not even behind. We're still on top of all of our schoolwork, even with taking 2 months off. So the flexibility that it gives for your life when life happens is amazing. And it's one of my favorite parts, that it can just go with the season of life. Right now, we're getting back into a season of life where we can be really productive and stay on top of it every single week. And I'm thankful for that, because the last season of our life was awful. So I'm excited to see where she keeps going and everything, but it allows for that. Some days we wake up and it's just like, we don't want to do school today. We just want to play outside, and that's fine too. So the time flexibility is phenomenal. So that's number 2. Number 3 is that accountability helps. This was one of the main reasons we started CC Now. We didn't have a classical conversations group local to us. So I'm actually the director of our groups. That way we can have one locally. And we have 9 families in it, and it's been wonderful. There's 12 kids, and Gemma's whole class, like there's 5 girls in her class. They're all the same age, and it's great. They're all really good friends, and it's cute to see them together. And the accountability side, like that was one of the main reasons I wanted to start a CC group. Yes, I could do classical education without having the community, but I wanted that really to have the community side, but also the accountability. And so every single week we show up and the tutors are teaching the next week of work. And so like we stay on top of it because of that. We continue doing school because of that. And that accountability helps so much in building the discipline to do school every single day, to wake up and actually decide to do the work. So I definitely recommend, if you're new to it and you're trying to build up the habit of doing school every day, figure out some sort of accountability system, whether it's joining a local co-op or community group, or doing it with some friends and just kind of keeping each other accountable. Like, definitely do that. It helps. Okay, number 4 is have a rhythm routine. I talk about rhythms all the time. I'm not a schedule person. It feels too rigid and too strict, and like it can't adjust with what's going on in my life. So I do rhythms. And so like we have a daily flow of our rhythm. We wake up and it's our morning time and breakfast and chores and then homeschool, and then we do lunch, and then it's quiet time, and then the afternoon roundup of chores, dinner, family time, bedtime routines. Like, it's a flow and it's a similar schedule we follow every single day of this rhythm. Sorry, not schedule. It's a similar rhythm that we follow every single day. But it allows for things to change. Like, tonight's not the normal bedtime routine because tonight my husband's taking the kids to Vespers prayer service at our church. So they're not going to bed at their normal time tonight. So it allows for that change whenever we need it. But the rhythm routine helps you stay in a routine with your kid. So like Gemma knows every morning we're going to do schoolwork. She wakes up, she does her morning basket. Like, it's just a routine and she gets into it and does it. Not usually there's no complaints. Or usually there is no complaints. That's where I'm trying to go with this. So she just knows that this is what we do. This is how we design our schedule. We have co-op on Thursdays and CC on Tuesdays. And so a rhythm routine can really help also with the accountability and the discipline side. And it also helps with your child because they know what to expect from each day. And then the last thing I've learned so far in this first year of homeschool is that I can do this. This was one of the biggest things when we were trying to decide if we wanted to homeschool. I'm like, can I do this? Like, I went to public school. I'm terrible at math. When she gets to the upper grades, my husband, thank God he's an engineer because he's the one who's going to have to help teach math. I'm like, can I do this? Like, I didn't go to school for education. And it's actually one of the biggest debates I hear against homeschoolers is like, you didn't go to school to teach, like, let the teachers teach. And I'm like, but I went to that public school, and you also went to that public school. So you don't feel like you learned much from that public school, but you want me to send my kids to public school. Like, no, I am more than qualified to teach my kid, and the curriculums help. I'm not just coming up with all this information on my own. I follow a curriculum. And I'm learning along the way. I'm actually having more fun this round than I did when I was actually in school because I'm learning along the way with my daughter, and it's fun to see that. And I can do it. I can do it. And it's fun and I love it. There are days that are hard. There are moments when Gemma, especially when she's getting bored with something, she'll purposely start doing it wrong. And then I get very flustered and very frustrated because like, I know she knows what she's doing. She's purposely doing it wrong because she's bored. And so we have to switch and pivot, and you learn what works for your child and what doesn't. But I can do it, and you can do it. Literally any parent can do this. It's so simple with the curriculums. That doesn't mean it's easy. There's a ton of resources out there. Co-ops help like find your community of moms, and you guys can support each other. And there are lessons you will learn along the way, but it is so incredibly worth it. It's worth every struggle. It's worth the learning curve. It is just, I love it. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be able to homeschool my children. Henry's turning 3 in March. I don't know what I'm gonna do with Henry. I mean, obviously I know I'm gonna homeschool, but I don't know when I'm gonna start him. Gemma very much showed that she wanted to start early, and I thought Henry wouldn't want to start till later. But he's showing me right now that he really likes what Sissy's doing, and he wants to do it too. He watches every video with us. He likes the dry erase books that I have because then he uses the marker to trace the mazes and circle pictures. So I don't know. He might want to start. I'm not going to start him at like 3. I let him play around and do little things now whenever he wants to. But like actual school, I don't know if I'll start him at 4 like I did Gemma, or if we'll start him a little bit later. I'm not sure what we're going to do with him yet. But I know I can do it. And that's the difference. And any mom out there who like wants to homeschool, but you're not sure if you can do it, you can. I promise you can. You just have to dive right in and do it. It's a struggle and it's a learning curve, but it's worth it and you can do it. Okay, so those are the 5 things I've learned in our first year of homeschooling so far. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode today. If you have any questions about homeschooling or anything, be sure to either comment below if you're watching the YouTube video of this, or send me an email at jillhughes@myrrh-bearingmillennial.com, and I'd be happy to chat with you more on this. Every Thursday, the episode will be live and the video version of it will go up on YouTube. So you can either watch this episode or listen to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. And then every Friday, I have a regular YouTube video that goes up too. That officially launches this Friday. So make sure you're subscribing to my YouTube channel, especially if you want the whole curriculum video that's coming out here soon within the next week or two. Make sure you go and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss that. I'm going to be sharing everything over there, and I'm excited to connect with you guys more over this next year through the podcast and YouTube channel. Make sure you're following me over on Instagram as well. And like I said, if you want, I have discount codes to certain things like Harbor and Sprouts, unit studies, and morning basket work. So just check the link in the show notes if you want that discount code to take advantage of that. And if you want to subscribe to my email letters so that way you never miss one of these episodes that drops, also see the link in the description in the show notes so that way you can join my email list. Okay, thanks guys for tuning in this week, and I'll chat with you again soon. God bless.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you loved what you heard today, please give the show a rating, share it to your Instagram, and be sure to tag me. This will help the show reach more moms just like you. If you're curious about any of my resources, be sure to click the link in the show notes and feel free to email me at jillhughes@myrrh-bearingmillennial.com. That's all for now, and we'll chat again soon. God bless.